swings as a long drive to right, and it is a home run for Gibson. A 3-run homer. The Tigers lead it 8-4 in the 8th inning.
This is Crafting the Call. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler with the Lansing Lugnuts, and today we are talking Ernie Harwell.
And I'm Josh Sushan with the Albuquerque Isotopes. And Jesse, I'm super excited about this one because Ernie Harwell is somebody who obviously I've known and I've listened to a lot, but I've really never dived deep into exactly what he said and how he said it and why people loved him so much. I know that he was beloved by baseball fans, especially Tigers fans. But today on Crafting the Call, Jesse, we get to really understand why he was special. And in order to make sure that we know exactly why he was special, we've got a special guest. We'd love to welcome Joe Block from the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Hey,
Thanks,
when you're
guys.
going to talk about like the voice of the Detroit Tigers, you need a Michigander, right?
Yeah, I grew up listening to him, so you got your man.
So let's start with just when someone says the name Ernie Harwell, what do you think of Joe in terms of like what he was like as a human, what he was like as a broadcaster, and what he meant to you and other Tigers fans?
The first word that comes to mind is warm. And I just think about who he was, but also how he came across on the radio, because there was a time where I didn't know him. I just knew him through listening to Tigers games. And there was always that great warmth. And, some of it could be just from the fact that he grew up in Georgia and had a little bit of that Southern accent and just gave that folksy feel. But really what it was just being genuine. And in that clip we just heard, Tiger fans at that point had gone 16 years without having a team in the World Series. And, to be back there and for them to have that moment where it looks like they're going to go ahead and probably cinch this thing up. You could hear the enthusiasm. And so just being genuine, being warm, I think was a thing that really came across on the air. But then later on in life, meeting him too, he was very much the same person.
Hey, Joe, when and how did you get the chance to get to meet him?
So I went to Michigan State, and it's kind of a funny story. One of my professors, L.A. Dickerson, who still teaches at Michigan State, her husband, Dan, at that time was hosting Sports Wrap, which was on the flagship WJR in Detroit. And that would basically be the pre and post game show, call-in show for Tiger games. And so he was kind of toward the end of my college years, being groomed as at least a partner with Ernie, and then probably his eventual successor if it had worked out. So in that time where Dan ended up coming into the booth in 2000, I went down to Lakeland to see Dan in the booth and congratulate him, maybe his second week on the job. And Ernie was there, of course. And then Ernie asked what I was doing. Am I into broadcasting? Why am I here? Kind of thing. And I said, well, I was just getting started. And that was my first year working as in the minor leagues as a play-by-play guy. So, Ernie thought that was neat. And the cool thing was the following year, I worked in St. Paul the following 2 years, 01 and 02, which were Ernie's last couple of years calling Tigers games. And so whenever they would come to play the Twins, which was often, I was able to sit with him and a couple of times visiting back in Detroit, including on Christmas Eve one year. So he always had time, and he was just a great man, and really glad we're doing this today.
I have a question for you, Joe. So I remember the first time that I sat next to Ken Korak as he was broadcasting a game. And I had listened to Ken broadcast A's games hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times. But there was something about watching him as he described the action where I was just like blown away. It was just like a different world to me. And I was scribbling constant notes the entire time, which I still keep to this day. And so I'm wondering, when you got to visit with Ernie and kind of see him work, what are the different thoughts that you learned from watching him do the job?
Well, I never got to sit in a booth with him during a game, so I don't really have that experience. But just from talking with him, I think some of the pointers that he gave me were to eliminate some extraneous speech. I think that was some of it. One of his pet peeves was saying on the year, he's hitting 313. That's it. So I just remember him drilling that in me, but really just being direct and not trying to fill the air. Let the game kind of come, come. And that, I think, over time is just for every broadcaster, you get more and more comfortable with yourself and with that dead air. And hopefully, through time, I was able to start doing that.
All right, we're going to look at some of Ernie's clips. And this first one I'm super excited about because this is going to be a quick collage of things. And this is going to epitomize what it was like on a Ernie Harwell broadcast.
Infield in double play depth for the Mariners. They've had a lot of ground balls so far today. Here's the pitch on the way. He swings and fouls it off. It'll reach the seats over back of the Tiger dugout. And the man from Walla Walla will take that one home. Set the pitch. He swings. On ball stopped by Trubisky for the second one. Really the first two for the price of one for the Tigers. A great play by Trubisky to end the third inning. There's a breaking ball in for a strike, and he stood there like the house by the side of the road and watched it go by. Struck him out. That's the third strikeout for Holiday. Right-hander against the right-hander. The outfield is straight up and deep on Fielder. He is the DH today. Swing. There's a drive to left. That one is long gone. Fielder weighs into that first pitch with.
All right, let's start with foul balls, Joe. When you hear him say that a fan from Walla Walla just picked up the foul ball, what do you think?
Oh, there's so many things. First of all, it's such a warm memory. Just that last few seconds right there. Oh man, it brings me back. I thought that was so inventive that he did that. Now that I've been doing this for 25 years, and I think back of knowing what the craft is and what it takes to prepare each day and that kind of thing. One of the things that I've tried to implement that I've heard other people say, and now that I do, is try to bring the fans to where you're at. And, so many people never get a chance to see any of these other places. Now, today, of course, we have television and you can just look on your phone and you can at least see what these parks are. But, I still treat it in my mind like there are these mysterious places. And so I think when he did something like that, well, how does he know that fan is from Walla Walla? And isn't Walla Walla really far from Seattle? Really, actually, Spokane, or wait, that's really far. But that's the kind of stuff that especially on radio, you can kind of have this. I use the word mysterious, but it's just you don't know exactly for sure if he's telling the truth or using creative license. Columnists and newspapers used to do that too. And I think there's just such a romance to that doesn't have to go away in today's modern age too.
I want to build off that word romance,
Mm-hmm.
because Josh and I sat down with Ken Levine to talk about Dave Niehaus. And the word that Ken just kept on coming back to was showman. That's not Ernie. But the word romance, I think, does touch on something that's very close to it. I was coming across whimsical, but I think romance hits more close to it. When he says that a batter stands there like the house by the side of the road to describe a batter caught looking. And this is all an allusion to the Sam Walter Foss poem. And when we get two for the price of one, everything with Ernie, it seemed to me, whether it's literary or whether it is that romantic nature of it, it's not him being a showman, it is him being human. And that's what I wanted to start to get at as we start to listen to his calls, with what contributed to his great charm and his love of language, and that leading into his love of connection.
Well, you're so well read. And I think you just connected something that I hadn't quite realized, but so was Ernie. And, being able to borrow pieces from literature to explain really mundane things in the game of baseball, I think are great. But, from a layman's perspective, someone who isn't as well read as you or as Ernie, but I just found it very relatable. For instance, a house by the side of the road, for some reason, whenever he would say that, I would always think of, like, for some reason, the plains of the early 20th century, a homestead that's off a dirt road, and you can see for miles, and it's the only stop for many, many miles. And I don't know why that came into my head, but that was, the solitary feeling of, you've struck out, and you've struck out looking. You didn't even get to swing. And now, what is that feeling like? And back in those days, especially, a lot of times you had a much longer walk back to the dugout, and it was much more scorned upon to strike out than it is today. That encapsulates all those things in a relatable term. And it just sounds, if you're not paying attention to just a throwaway thing, well, you just say that. But to me, it really, like, you know how that hitter feels, So I thought that was great. And then 2 for the price of 1, everyone goes grocery shopping. So, and then one of the sponsors at that time when I was growing up, it was Farmer Jack, which is this long since gone supermarket. But it would be fun. 2 for the price of 1, and the inning would end, and then it'd be like, hey, it's Farmer Jack savings time, and it's like, well, how does he know what? So I don't know if that had something to do with it or not, but that was really good too. So just little things like that all seem to tie together and make it magical.
Let me bring up something for us to kick around and for other broadcasters to think about as well, because I want to talk about the fan from who gets the foul ball. And I think it's just such a fun thing to mix in geography. But let's say that me or Jesse or any other broadcaster out there watches this and goes, I want to do that. So if I'm in Albuquerque tonight and I say, the fan from Los Lunas picked that up, the fan from Rio Rancho picked that up, the visiting fan from Truth and Consequences got that foul ball. Is it hokey to blatantly just steal Ernie Harwell's line? Or what do you guys think about incorporating stuff like that for other broadcasters?
Well, I have mixed opinions on it, because in one way you bring it back, and it's so good that it's fun. I do it from time to time when it strikes me, maybe once or twice a year, but then I mention Ernie. I think I did it when we were in Toronto for some reason. I think I just wanted to show off my knowledge of Ontario municipalities or something like that. But it's in fact, now that I was thinking about it, I said London, Ontario, and coincidentally, which I just came to find out, one of our players had a young man in from London, Ontario, there to watch him. It was not the same person, but just maybe some clairvoyance there or whatever. But just once in a while, it's kind of fun. So I don't know if he used to start a broadcast with baseball greetings, and I do that sometimes too, because I like it. And I don't think it was really something that a lot of people knew that he said or remember that is tied strictly to him. So I don't know. I think it's a feel thing, just with, taking different parts from, whether it's Bill King or whoever, I just, from people that you grew up listening to, I think, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So, as long as it's from the heart and, you're doing it for the right reasons, I guess, sure. Yeah. Why not? Now, if you're selling merchandise with it, I think that would be a little bit bad.
As a quick aside, the Rowdy Tellez relationship with that youngster is awesome.
Yes, yeah, that's who that is. Yeah.
So I think that, Josh, the wink, the tribute, can be used to great effect. Like me, I'm broadcasting in Michigan. So if I say that foul ball was caught by a fan from Okemos, the listeners know what I'm talking about. They know exactly what I'm nodding to. And I can say explicitly a nod to Ernie, a tribute to Ernie. So they're like the house by the side of the road, because the folks who are listening to me also listen to Ernie. And I think wherever you go and where you might be, to have that understanding and that connection to history, if you use it well, then you can use it to great effect, to nod with great respect, in the same way that filmmakers use their own movies to pay tribute to the movies that inspired them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to approach it. Attribution, I think, in Michigan, it would be different than, say, in Pittsburgh, where, most people had not listened to him growing up. So, but again, and he was my biggest influence as a youth. But for instance, sitting next to Bob Uecker for 4 years, I think, I have a lot more things that I do that, if I'm really analyzing myself, that are from sitting next to him, for instance, but none of it is, outright stealing. It's just who I've become, little bits and pieces, who I am, but also I think the emphases from different people that I've either worked with or listened to, or have, counseled me and that kind of thing. And that's, I think, who we all are as people anyway.
On the shoulders of giants. Yeah. I wanted to throw this at the two of you too. You had Red Barber coming out of Florida into Brooklyn with the barbarisms. Here we have Ernie Harwell coming out of Georgia, and first Giants and Orioles, but he arrives in Michigan. And there is that folksy nature. There is very much that different, that, as you said, Joe, that Georgia nature. But I also want to add in that everything that I've ever heard from Ernie, and when I met with him myself, he would always say, how often do you say the score? Say the score. Mm-hmm. That there were all those different aspects that had importance in the broadcast and the great warmth and connection, but you always had to make sure that you were saying the score.
Yeah, that's it. That's really it. I mean, you give the score and you give the situation. We were playing, the Gibson home run, and then also just that Mariners. So one thing that he did very well, that isn't exclusive to him, but I think all very good baseball broadcasters do, is so that Mariners sequence right there. It doesn't seem like it's much, but he's saying they've been hitting a lot of ground balls today, or you might even say, like, the opposing pitcher, this is a ground ball pitcher, and here's a double play type situation. You just spell it out. Or there's a runner at second, it's got good speed here with one out, could score on a base hit, fast runner at first, less than 2 outs, could score on a ball that hits the gap. Just things like that. I do that all the time. And Ernie did that all the time. Just spell it out for the audience. What are we anticipating here? What could happen? And being ready for the pitch. I mean, you heard that on the Gibson home run. How easy is it to just kind of get into a conversation? And when it was he and Paul Carey, you saw George Kell in one of the pictures too, the great Hall of Fame player who ended up being the Tigers TV play-by-play broadcast for many years. But there wouldn't be a lot of banter. It was the announcer would talk. And so that made it easier to be ready for the pitch. And I still, if I'm on radio, I want to make sure we're ready for the pitch. Our analysts do a good job of that too, where they'll stop, get ready for the pitch, or lay out if the ball's in play. But I think Ernie really just spelled it out for the audience. I think that's what's something that, you don't need to give a percentage or, ranking or anything. Just, this ground ball pitcher, there's good chance of being a ground ball right here and get the Tigers out of the inning.
All right, let's go back to the magical year of 1984 for the next clip as we listen to some of the great moments from Ernie Harwell history.
And now it's Ron Kittle, the Rookie of the Year, coming to bat. And we'll have a runner at first base for Lisinski. Stegman, the former Tiger. Dave Stegman, the one-time Tiger, is the runner at first base. 2 down in the 9th inning. Jack Morris 1 out away from no-hit fame. Kittle has gone 0 for 3 this afternoon. He's hit the first pitch 2 out of 3 times. And he takes in tight for a ball 1. In the 2nd inning, he hit the first pitch and popped to second base. He struck out in the 4th inning. He went for the first pitch and flied to Gibson in right in the 7th. Big lead for Stegman. They're not bothering about him. The pitch to Kittle. Swing and a miss on a changeup. 1-1 the count on him. 4-0 Tigers lead. It is a no-hit bid for Morris. He has 1 to go in the 9th inning. And the White Sox fans are still on their feet here at this old ballpark. Outfield deep to left on Kittle. The 1-1 delivery on the way. Kittle swings and beats the ground foul down past third. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Morris ahead of the hitter. Stegman back to first base. Bergman playing very wide of the bag on him. Tug of the cap by Morris. Working up the set position now. He goes to his set. Kittle waits. Here it comes. He struck him out, and Morris has a no-hitter. Lance Parrish goes out and grabs him, and the Tigers get a no-hit performance for the first time since 1958 when Jim Bunning did it. Jack Morris, the no-hit hero, surrounded by his teammates in the 9th inning. Chicago, no runs, no hits, no errors, 1 man left, and the final score, Detroit 4, Chicago nothing.
There's so much there.
Where do you want to start?
Well, first, he mentions, Kittle's coming up. He has swung at the first pitch twice in his 3 at-bats. So he's creating the anticipation of, well, maybe this first pitch could be put in play, and this could decide the no-hitter right now. So the fact that he's paid attention to that, I think, is noticeable. He gives the defense. Kittle was a home run hitter, a pull hitter. They're deep to the pull field. When you're in a situation like that, how is the defense playing? Because any ball that's put in play, you want to have an idea of where those guys are, so you can kind of visualize the odds of this ball falling in or not. Bergman's playing off the line for a righty batter. That's standard. Mentions that. Casey shoots one up first, and it's going to be a double and then a run in, and Morris will probably get yanked and Willie Hernandez will come in, whatever, so that kind of stuff is, really important in a tight game like that, whether it's a no-hitter or just, it's the 9th inning of a tight game, thinking about where a ball could fall in. And I just thought that was extraordinary. And then just repeating. This is another thing that Ernie always did great. He always recapped, always recapped throughout the game. That's something that he stressed on me and everybody else that was willing to listen, is just keep recapping, not just giving the score, but recap. How did we get to this score? So everybody that's tuning in for that final 90 seconds of this game, I heard there's a no-hitter. Okay. Yes, it's still going on. Or I just happened to tune in. Are they still playing? Wait, it's the 9th inning. Wait, Morris has a no-hitter right now. Wow. Okay. So that's the kind of stuff that he always did that made him so extraordinary, is that you were talking to Jesse earlier about just the simple stuff, being ready for the pitch and giving the score and recapping the game and giving the defense. His personality and warmth shone through because of who he was. But as a broadcaster, he was excellent because he did all the things that you need to do. He did them all very well, and he did them all the time.
Joe mentioned Willie Hernandez. So Jesse, unless you have something, I want to see Willie Hernandez. Let's get to it. Let's see Willie Hernandez.
Ball 1, the count on Motley. Here's the pitch. Motley swings. There's a pop foul off the third. It may be the pennant. Castillo has it, and the Tigers have won the American League pennant. Their first since 1968. Willie Hernandez, hugged by his teammates. The police are trying to keep the spectators off the field. Some have broken from the center field area, and the Tigers are celebrating their 9th American League pennant here tonight at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull. What a night this has been.
Joe, I want you to give us more perspective on that phrase, the corner of Michigan and Trumbull, and what that means in the grand scheme of Ernie Harwell's career.
I didn't realize it had been said so much more. It was really popularized once we knew that they were going to build a new ballpark. And then they started to really, I think, create a reverence for Tiger Stadium. I think fans had that, but, a team issued reverence, so to speak. They made a logo that final year. and really played up the corner, that phrase. But what Ernie did there, what Vin Scully did with Koufax's, I'm trying to think, it was a no-hitter or a perfect game. I can't remember now. I'm thinking of John Miller calling Matt Cain's perfect game. There's certain moments, and there's probably countless others too, but these are the ones that happen to stick in my mind. Ernie gives the location of what has taken place. That to me tells the audience that this is something meaningful. Where did this take place? Vin, during Koufax, one of his no-hitters, mentions the time that the game ends. This is a moment in time that is worth remembering. And I remember John Miller gave the intersection, if not the address, I can't remember. I think it was the intersection of, at that time, I think Pac Bell or whatever it's called, of the ballpark, like Ernie did there, at least the intersection, what, King and Third, I think it was. So you know better, Sush. but that kind of stuff to me, I would never think about it as a fan, but in this business, thinking about how that really adds to the importance of what we just heard is remember where this took place. For forever, there's something historic that has taken place here, as much as a battlefield would be commemorated. It's, a ballpark goes away and then there might be a placard. There's, here on this plot of land, something historic took place. For instance, when the Pirates won the World Series in 1960, they still get together at the same moment that the game ended. That Mazeroski hit the home run. They play it right at the same time that Maz hit the home run every year. And I think it's 3:43 p.m. or whatever. But you get the point. Like, that mattered. This was historic. So I think that's something that was really cool about what he did right there, is that, hey, the Tigers don't win the pennant that often. This is the 9th time that it's happened. Hasn't happened in 16 years, and it happened right here at this place.
To connect it, it's back to the relatability. It's back to every Tigers fan. You know exactly what he's talking about. He's putting you right there, and he's bringing you right in along with him. I just saw Inside Out too, so I'm thinking very much about emotions too. And we've had.
Don't give it away, because I'm going Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Younger kids.
Here's all I want to add. I feel like Ernie calls these big moments, Jack Morris winning the pennant, with pride. There's just so much pride there behind his voice.
That's a great observation. And I think if you're with a team, and I've been with the Pirates long enough now that I feel that way. It's not something that comes automatically. And I think if you asked him, 68 would be a good marker. That was his 9th year. This is my 9th year with the Pirates. I think by then he had felt that. But, if they had won it in 61, let's say, his second year with the team, would he have felt that same, would he have exuded that same pride? I think that just comes naturally. So that's really interesting that you brought that up. I didn't think about that, but that was his 25th year with the team. He'd clearly, decided that he was going to finish his career in Detroit. This is who he was. This is the Tigers broadcaster, so in his baseball life. So that's neat, because that reflects what everybody listening feels too. And that's going back to being genuine. If you're yourself and you feel it, it'll come across.
I want to piggyback on that pride, because the other thing about Ernie and his long time with the Tigers is we're listening to these great moments from 1984, and there's a few other great moments that we're going to listen to. But by and large, the Tigers were not this juggernaut during those years. It's a lot of losing years. There was a lot of years where you're broadcasting a lot of negative news to your audience. And so when you do have these moments, I think fans feel a little extra special connection when it's the first time in a long time. And I think that you can hear that pride in Ernie's voice at that moment, even as he's describing This is where the ball was caught. This is these fans that are trying to get on the field, and the police are trying to hold them back. And then there's this other celebration that's going on here. For the television calls of these final outs, I'm a big believer, you just lay out, you just let the pictures describe the story. But for the radio calls, I really enjoy hearing, we heard Marty Brenneman do this on that episode and others, about what the fans are doing, what the police are doing, where the celebrations are taking place, what is happening with these celebrations when you're doing it on radio.
Yeah, I think we all of us that do this have a natural curiosity. So when we're observing what's taking place, we're looking for things that are different than the norm and want to point them out, whether it's something we do in our research before a game or whether it's as we're watching it live and observing. And so, yeah, seeing some people break free from center field and try to run a quarter mile into the infield, I think that's a visual that's quite interesting, and that doesn't take place ever unless there's bedlam and joy and celebration. So I think that helps underscore that. One thing that we played a series of clips a few moments ago, and Chris Truby's name came up. Truby is now an instructor in the Pirates minor league system, so it rang a bell with me. But also, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been his final game that he called. Truby was playing for the Tigers in 2002. They were playing in Toronto, if I remember right. And I have that game, and I listen to it every now and then. And what I thought was interesting is that he doesn't talk about himself but once, and he said, well, when the game's over, I'll say my goodbyes. But he called that game with a lot of enthusiasm. That was a very bad team, and it was a prelude to one of the worst teams in baseball history. The 0-3 team that had to win 5 of 6 to avoid its 120th loss. And I thought that was interesting too. Just that call of Truby, for instance, there's a lilt in his voice that says that something fun might happen, something interesting might happen. One thing that Ernie always said whenever we talked is every game stands on its own, and whether it's the last game of a seemingly meaningless season, or a very meaningful career, it can be special. Any moment can be special, and so just keeping that in the back of my mind, I think he always had that on his mind, that to keep that for the audience. To show that you care. So I tried to do that too. I don't know if that really is something that you wanted me to even talk about, but I just felt like saying.
All right, we've listened to some individual calls, and we've heard kind of the full at bat of the Jack Morris no-hitter. Let's go to the 9th inning, the final game of the 1987 regular season. It's the Tigers and the Blue Jays, with the American League East on the line.
Hang on, everybody. Here's the 9th inning. The Tigers won, Toronto nothing. The Tigers 3 outs away from becoming the Eastern Division champions. But Frank Tanana, who has spun a shutout through 8, will have to get by Fielder, Lee, and Orge, or a pinch hitter or 2 in the 9th inning. Jimmy Whale-Wonder has come in to play third base. He will be replacing Morrison. And Tanana up on the mound now, waiting for Fielder to get into the batter's box. The police are ringing the stands, and the crowd is ready to break loose here at Tiger Stadium on this autumn afternoon. 1-0 Detroit. They got the one in the 2nd inning on a home run by Larry Herndon. Cecil Fielder at the plate. He's had a single for 3 off Tanana. And the pitch, he takes a strike call, a slow curve over. Manny Lee waits on deck. Whale-Wonder deep at third, guarding the line on Cecil Fielder. Tanana ready to work again. Winds and pitches. There's a ball outside. A fastball, 1-1, non-fielder. The Blue Jays have left 8 runners. The Tigers have left only 2. They left those 2 in 1 inning. Gibson and Trammell walked in that inning and were left. Here's a pitch. Fielder swings and fouls it away. Got out in front of a slow pitch and nubbed it foul to the right of the plate. 1-2 to count on Cecil Fielder. Fielder digging in again. Tanana looks him over, gets his side from Heath. The windup, the pitch. It's a low one in the dirt. 2-2 the count on Cecil. Tanana has retired the side in order in 3 innings. He was aided by double play to do it in 1 of those innings. Now the windup and the pitch. Fielder takes the ball low. Full count on him. That was a fastball. One run, 3 hits, no errors, the Tiger total. Blue Jays, no runs, 6 hits and no errors. 9th inning. Cecil Fielder leading it off. He's got a 3-2 count on him. And the pitch on the way. He swings and misses. 2 to go.
I'm going to pause it here for a moment because there are so many different things that I've written down. Police ringing the stands, autumn afternoon. Love those phrases. Even the phrase nubbed it. He nubbed it foul. Even at one point he said just a slow pitch, right? I can relate. I'm not sure if that was a changeup, if that was a curveball. That was just a slow pitch.
Well, Tanana was, 35, 36 years old at that time, and he had hurt his arm. He used to be that hard thrower, and he would just throw a lollipop curveball up in there. He would throw a lob pitch, and that might have been what he threw right there. This, by the way, is my favorite game of my life. I was 9. In '84, I was a little unaware. I knew that there was a lot going on, but I didn't quite know what it was. I didn't really develop an ardent fanship until probably '86. So this was my favorite game. The Herndon home run, we were watching it at school, and school let out, and then I was able to get home to watch the end of it. So this is great, picking this apart. And I'll tell you, if it matters, the final out here used to be one of the Brewers coaches, and I would ask him about it. And Jim Whale Wander was my favorite player. So he's in this game for defense. All right, go ahead. All right, I'm just getting excited.
Tanana's 9th strikeout. Manny Lee steps up. Quick batting shortstop is fouled at third, hit a triple to right field, and fly to right. Luceda shading his eyes with his glove out there in right. That right field is very tough now. And Manny runs up the bunt and takes the ball low. Orange is waiting on deck. Tanana seeking 2 more outs to bring the Tigers a championship. Now he goes into the motion. He pitches. Here's a floater high to Manny Lee, 2-0. Thurman and Henneman are working in the bullpen. Willie Hernandez is back in uniform. Manny Lee digs it again, 2-0 to count on him. The pitch on the way. He takes a strike. Looked ready to bunt. He didn't offer on it. It got the outside corner. 2-1 the count on Lee. 1 down, 9th inning. Tigers lead 1-0. Wind up by Tanana. He pitches. Lee swings a chop foul. Hit over toward the Tiger dugout. 2-2 the count on Manny. Now the motion, the 2-2 pitch. Swing, a chopper, hit the third. Whale Wanda has it. Here's the throw to Evans in the dirt. Scooped up by Evans. A good pickup, and there are 2 down.
The boy almost made a mistake there, Joe. Good thing it got picked.
And that's where, if the ball gets hit to right where Lusader is, and that's, you can go, okay, well, wait a minute, this is the Sunfield. It's late afternoon. You're anticipating that. Whale Wanderers come in for defense. Okay, good. So hit the ball to third. It should be easy. Maybe he could have added that he was a rookie. And the rookie is in for defense at third, and then you could go, well, he's in for defense, so he's sure-handed, but wait a minute, he's a rookie too. So little things like that, I think, are so interesting if you're following along with the game, and if it's, of course, at this magnitude, you're just thinking about all the possibilities that are taking place. And that's what Ernie's doing here is he's giving you all the different, do they go to the bullpen? They got the lefty, the righty up. Henneman was the closer that year. Thurman was a lefty that they'd bring in. Willie Hernandez was the great closer for many years, but he had been hurt a lot that year. Henneman took over as a rookie. So it's different stuff like that. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Anticipation, but spelling it out in a way that everybody can understand.
What has stood out for you, Jesse, so far from what we've heard in this inning?
It's such great rhythm because everything builds up to the pitch. And then after the pitch occurs, we hear the result. And then there's that pause for the crowd. And then Ernie comes back in with this recap or this detail or this illustration or this, as Joe said, let's think about this. Now here comes the next pitch. So the rhythm is just beautiful, building and building.
We're going to get back to it in a moment. If there's one thing that I could nitpick about this inning so far, and this is what we do on Crafting the Calls, we nitpick so we can get better, is that Ernie has let us know that the Tigers are 1 out away, but he has not let us know what's at stake for the Blue Jays here. If they win this game, are they the American League East champions, or is that going to force another game the final day in the season? And maybe he said that 13 times throughout the course of the first 8 innings, and so it's understandable if he didn't. But again, I would like to know exactly what's at stake for both teams. The Tigers are now 1 out away from clinching the division. What is going to happen for the Blue Jays if they can rally and win this game?
I agree. I didn't know we'd do that on this. I mean, I don't want to nitpick, because it's like, oh, this is my idol here. But but I was thinking that before you said it. You can't say that enough, I think, in this instance. Just spell it out, like we saw in the 84, in the 84 clips. And then the other thing I would add, too, is when Fielder was up, and Fielder, of course, goes on to become a great Tiger home run hitter, he was still a young player that hadn't really got his footing as a major league player, but he always had a ton of power. And I think I would have said in that at bat, here's a, all or nothing power hitter, something to the effect that he's a power hitter because he could tie the game. He's the kind of hitter that has the capability of tying the game. And so that would be something that I would have probably added during the Fielder at bat.
All right, let's continue on.
One to go, and the Tigers are the Eastern champions. This big crowd, 51,000 plus on its feet. Garth Orge is the obstacle now for Frank Tanata in the 9th inning. Tigers lead 1-0 on the Herndon home run. Orge waiting, and the pitch. He swings. There's a little roller back to Tanana. He gloves it. Throw to first. The Tigers are the champions. They win it. And Tanana does a great job. And they are celebrating on the diamond. The Tigers are mobbing each other over near first base. Some of the crowd moving on the field now. And here come the policemen on the horseback. And they will try to quell the mob here at Tiger Stadium. But the Tigers have won it. And in the 9th inning, It was no runs on no hits, no errors, and nobody left. A brilliant performance by Frank Tanana, and the home run by Larry Herndon in the second inning brought the championship to Detroit. After the Tigers were down, looked like they were out of it last week, the Toronto Blue Jays lost 7 straight games, including this one, and the title goes to Detroit, and they will meet the Minnesota Twins in the American League playoffs this coming week. The Tigers continue to celebrate out on the field. The police have everything pretty well under control. A few fans jumped on the field, but the mounted patrol contained them, and the other police standing around the grandstand have everything pretty much in order. The Tigers are now leaving the field and headed for the dressing room. And in a little while, we'll go down to Paul Carey, who's down there in the Tiger dressing room, to join in on this great celebration at Tiger Stadium.
Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, that was my favorite game. It was so great to hear that again. If we're nitpicking, the one thing I would add in there is that Tanana was a Detroit native, and to tie that all together is that the Detroit, he wasn't a kid anymore. He was an older player at that time, but he brings, I don't know how you would say it, but brings a division title to Detroit. The Detroiter, does that for the city. Detroit is a very proud city, so I think that would have been a wrinkle in there. But I think everybody by that time knew that Tanana is from Detroit. But kind of spelling it out, saying, "Hey, it was a collapse by the Blue Jays." Yeah, the Tigers weren't playing very well, and even Milwaukee was kind of, they got off to that great start. They were 13-0 that year, and they were hinting at it late in the year. It was kind of an improbable finish. And Tanana goes, pitches and shutout, 9 strikeouts. It wasn't a strikeout pitcher anymore. That a nod to his performance, and then mentioning the Herndon home runs, the only offense of the whole game. So good recap. He is enamored with the police. And as an aside, Garth Orridge, that was his final appearance in the major leagues. He was a 9 or 10 year major league player. He was a coach for the Brewers when I was there too. And that's how his career ended. He didn't like that very much. So it was just interesting to go back and visit with people that participated in that game through the years. So
I do wonder. I wonder if Ernie, in the lead up, because his call is very unhurried, Garth Orridge is the obstacle.
Oh, obstacle was such a great word. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I wrote that down too.
So there's just everything about it where he's relaxed. He's calling this, and here it is, and he celebrates it. He commends Tanana, and then Joe, he looks immediately to the crowd, and he's wondering, who's going to come out there? How will they be controlled? So that is one of his top priorities that he is paying very close attention to as he relays to you a la newspaper article. Here's how we got to this point. Here's the Blue Jays losing streak. You thought maybe the Tigers wouldn't make it? They'll make it. They'll face the Minnesota Twins. So it's your information alongside, here's what I'm seeing that's going out there on the field. Seems very orderly.
Yeah, there's a cadence to it. I mean, whenever I have the opportunity to speak to prospective play-by-play broadcasters, I implore them to study journalism and 20th century journalism, inverted pyramid. What is most important when you're making the call? The most important thing goes first. We'll get to the details. Don't give me this ambling thing with all this. We'll get to all that other stuff. And so, like you said, Jesse, it's the Tigers have won the American League East. All right. And then here's some of the details. The game was 1-0. Tanana went the distance. The Blue Jays lost 7 in a row. The Tigers will play the Twins in the coming days for the American League pennant. And if you're thinking about writing a bullet point article, that's all right, here you are. And then the second part is, okay, what are we seeing? And so in that moment, what are the fans doing? Anybody that's listening is honking their horn if they're driving, or they're jumping up and down, maybe doing both. Probably not as safe, but he's doing that for them. Okay, here's what they're doing here. There's 51,000 people here. Wow. They're all going crazy, and there's even a few of them trying to get on the field, and there's horses on the field right now. So just creating, painting the picture that way, but also trying to be a reporter. And really, if you think back to when Ernie started in the 1940s, that staccato reporter style of broadcasting in the infancy of sports play-by-play, namely baseball, that's how it was done. This is what is happening. Strike, ball, count, score, strike, ball, count, score, strike. And so he has stuck with that cadence. He has stuck with that routine throughout, and I still think today it's applicable. It may not, because of having almost every radio broadcast has two people talking back and forth. You really can't quite keep it that clean. As we learned, Paul Carey is down, in the clubhouse, going to talk with players afterwards. So he's the only one there. But even if Paul was sitting right next to him, that's how it would sound. We don't hear it like that much anymore. But still, that's the kind of cadence or routine to follow, the checklist in one's head. All right, let's get this right, and then leave room for other things as we go along.
All right, we have one more clip before we wrap up this week's episode, and I wanted to save this for the last one because it's the final half inning at Tiger Stadium. And also it's because Ernie absolutely positively breaks one of his biggest rules ever. And one of Ernie's biggest rules ever was that the game comes first, that it's all about the game first. And for the final inning at Tiger Stadium, Ernie said the game is not going to come first for what we're about to hear here next.
Well, here we go, folks. It's been a grand day so far. 8-2 the Tigers, and here comes Roller Coaster Jones, Dan.
It's never dull with him on the mound, is it?
It sure isn't. He's going to be pitching here in the ninth inning, and I think we're going to get a pinch hitter here for the KCs.
Scott Pose is the pinch hitter.
All right, Mr. Pose will be batting for Fabulous.
The well-traveled Scott Pose.
Right. He's been around a while. He's batting .287 with no home runs and 10 RBIs. And the big crowd now anticipating the end of this game. 8-2, the Tigers in the lead. And here's the set by Jonesy and the pitch. It's the ball. Now, folks, I'm going to say my goodbye to Tiger Stadium, so I'm going to forget about the play-by-play for a moment. How do you talk to a legend? Can you say goodbye to a shrine? Can you walk away from a treasure? It's not easy. You do it with a lump in your throat and a tear in your eye. For almost 40 years, I've spent as much time at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull as I have at home. I've been elated, dejected, thrilled, and disappointed here. I've sweltered through the summer heat. I've frozen in the spring and fall. In sickness and in health, it's been my home, my office, and my refuge. When I first came here to broadcast, it was Briggs Stadium and then Tiger Stadium. And somewhere along the way, I began to call it the corner of Michigan and Trumbull, and soon shortened that to just the corner. To me, it will always be the corner, the most famous corner in Michigan. Tiger Stadium has been a dear friend, and even though I look forward to our new home, Comerica Park, and to the thrill of watching new Tiger stars, this old corner and its great players will remain a timeless gift of the past. The corner is part of our history, our heritage. It's been magic, hope, and the true heartbeat of our city. Baseball memories have come here to live and to be treasured. And you and I have been part of those memories. We've thrilled to the home runs, the strikeouts, the double plays. From generation to generation, we've joined that joyous crowd. And all of us love this old place. And its closing tugs at our heart. And like you, like all of us, I will cherish its memories. I know that there's never been a corner like Michigan and Trumbull. Now we have 2 out in the ninth inning, a strikeout and a line out to second. And Beltran, the rookie sensation at the bat, swings and fouls it away. And it looks like a Hollywood premiere here, Dan Dickerson, the way the lights are flashing.
What an incredible sight. Same as we saw in the bottom of the 8th with Robert Fick at the plate.
Mr. Jones has set down the first 2. No roller coaster yet. He's got an 8-2 lead. It may be the final out right here. He sets and deals. There's a foul out of play. And now it's a strike 2 count. 8 runs, 11 hits, no errors for the Tigers. 2 runs, 11 hits, and 1 error for Kansas City. And listen to this crowd. Beltran waiting. The set, the pitch. It's a ball outside. And with every pitch, we get lightning all over the place from those cameras. What a thrill. What a sensation here on the final game. Outside, and the count goes 2-2. Beltran is single, double, and walk. He's got a perfect night. Tigers lead it 8-2, 2 down in the 9th inning. Jones is ready. He delivers. There's a swing and a miss. The game's over, and Tiger Stadium is no more. The final score, the Tigers 8 and the Royals 2.
I still get wispy. Yeah. One of those light bulbs was mine.
Was it really?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I probably went to about 11 of the final 15 games. I was living in Lansing at the time, and I would drive down, and I was 21 at the time. So it was good to experience it in that way. Its final year too. So, I think, going back to what I was saying about journalism, he obviously wrote that, and it was wonderful. And it's something that I probably haven't heard in 20 years or more. And I remembered so much of it. And that goes back to, if you're asking younger broadcasters, hey, get a good writing background, whether it's from reading or writing or both, to be able to write something like that. It's not going to come up very often where you have a soliloquy on, over obscuring the play-by-play, but he's able to do that and do that wonderfully. And then Tiger Stadium is no more. I always have remembered him saying it like that. And it's almost chilling to me, the people that grew up in Detroit and really had a good amount of time there at that park. It's no more. It's it's not the final game at Tiger Stadium. Final game at Tiger Stadium. It is no more. It is nothing. That's it. It was I don't think he planned on saying it that way, but it always is just it just reverberates in my head hearing it that way. So different things like that, where he's 80 years old, he's involving Dan, his protege, in that final inning on purpose to get fans used to him. I thought was very extremely classy to do that. It's that shows you a lot about Ernie, the person, that in that moment, which was clearly one that everyone wanted to hear, the voice of the 40-year voice of the Tigers tell us what was taking place. He made sure, hey, come on, Dan, I want you to be part of this. And even if you're just telling us about Scott Pose, but your voice is on that final half inning. So there's just a lot there, but I thought he did a really nice job of encapsulating what we were all thinking. But so many of us were there or around there. I mean, there was probably another 100,000 people outside of the ballpark at Hoot Robinson's and around the area that that night that his audience was decreased a little bit than normal, but he really put that all very beautifully. And for him too, think about it, it's right at the end of his career too. So, you know, he broadcasts a couple more years or 3 more years, but you know, he's probably thinking in his own mind at that time, you know, Tiger Stadium is winding down, and so am I, you know, and I think the parallel there is pretty noticeable.
Joe, what did you do with your photographs?
Oh, they're in a drawer somewhere. But I also took a camcorder, and for some reason I'm not paying attention to recording a whole bunch. I think I recorded something when we got to our seats. I went with a bunch of college buddies, and I turned it on right before. So Robert Fick, who was a role player, I guess, hits a grand slam onto the roof in the top of the 9th inning, or at the bottom of the 8th inning, I should say. And I just turned it on a few pitches before that for whatever reason. And we're just like saying, well, we're going to say our goodbyes now. Last time the Tigers are at the bat. And then I'm like, you know, show it. I'm sitting in the upper deck in right field, and I'm, you know, you can't see the ball, but I try to do that. And then our celebration is captured on videotape somewhere. So somewhere I've digitized that. I have to go back and watch that again, but it's neat to go through and hear that again. And I'm still sad that it's not there anymore. But well, you know, I was glad to have got to experience it.
If I may, the inclusion of both the scripted word and the unscripted word. And I come back to Ernie's great whimsy. We begin the 9th with Roller Coaster Jones for Todd Jones. It's just such a way to welcome your closer out of the game. And he and Dan already have that smile on their face. And then he launches into what he prepared. And then afterward, describing the scene with all those flashbulbs. It's a Hollywood premiere. The lightning. It's incredible. And then, as you say, Tiger Stadium is no more. And that's naturally what occurred to him to say. And so you have the beautiful, prepared, edited, sculpted words for his soliloquy, for his final farewell essay. And then you have him broadcasting off the cuff. And it's gorgeous and meaningful in a totally different but related way. It's the wordsmith.
Yeah, the Hollywood premiere, that's such a great way. Everyone knows what you're getting at there. And, you know, I think it would be easy to just say, well, there's all the light bulbs, you know, all the flashes from the disposable cameras of the day. But he did it in a different way. But Jesse, I had overlooked what you said about the inning start. That it was so whimsical. It's he and Dan going, we got a 6-run lead. Let's see if Todd Jones can, you know, like, and it's just like two buddies like having a laugh, and then there's this like really sad moment following it. But it just, yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions, and you know, maybe using that word, which they used before too for Jones, but using that word, I think, also properly described the emotions of that half inning too.
All right, as we wrap things up, Jesse, I want to start with you. After listening to these clips and hearing Joe's memories, what are your new takeaways about the life and the career of the great Ernie Harwell?
So I entered this. I had the chance to meet Ernie near the end. I grew up a Detroit Tigers fan. I moved to Michigan, and I had the chance to sit down with him and Lulu and just hear stories inside of stories. So he to me was Scheherazade in terms of how well he could spin a yarn. But also, Josh, you and I are both writers. And so I've got my Tune to Baseball. I've got my Ernie books. He was a writer. He wrote songs. And so I come into this going, this is a man who values the word and what you can do with it. And then right from the very start, Joe, you make such a good point with the warmth and relatability. He combines the journalism with him talking right to you and him putting you right there. And you in Michigan, you in Detroit, you in wherever you are, you who care about the Tigers, Ernie cares about you. and you are together. There is no distance. There is that everyman folksy nature of it's time for Tigers baseball, and it's beautiful. So I think, Josh, that is such a rare and difficult combination to have this tremendous talent for words and how you use them, and also to have such a great relatability.
I'm going to jump in next, and I'm going to say that, some broadcasters just have this incredible voice. Like Gary Thorne just has one of these voices where you hear his voice and you just think big game and you just think big moments. And after talking to you guys for this episode, Ernie stands to me as he is the ultimate day in, day out broadcaster, where you may not appreciate one at bat, one inning, even one full game, but over the course of his magnificent career, his consistency, he's a guy who grows on you. His voice, all of these things that we've described, the warmth, bringing the fans into it. He's someone where the more you listen to him, the more you appreciate him.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. So what a great take, right? I think you guys, and it's great to hear you talk about him, because you didn't grow up listening to him. We're so biased naturally, having listened to him and associating childhood memories with his voice. You can look at it a lot more subjectively and his work. But yeah, I mean, in the way that I operate today, so much of that is a resonance of what he did, and not really all that intentional. I think anytime, or one of our parents shows us how to do something, we do it that way until we find a better way. And if we never find a better way, or we don't care to, then we always do it that way. And so I think that's kind of where I've been shaped as a broadcaster, is that this is how I hear a game. And so I'm going to do it this way. And so for me, this was really a kind of neat search within who I am as a broadcaster, to figure out who Ernie was as a broadcaster, and try to really dissect what he did and what he did particularly well. I never really had done that before. So for me, this was a period of realization and growth for me over the last 70 minutes. So thank you.
Joe, thank you for taking the time. Josh, thank you very much. From my Mid-Atlantic to your West Coast, to Joe Block, Midwest, talking about the broadcaster traded for the catcher, paying tribute to Ernie Harwell. This has been Crafting the Call.